Imagination is often dismissed as childish fantasy, a harmless escape from reality. Yet beneath that assumption lies one of the most powerful tools the human mind possesses, and when used deliberately it becomes the quiet doorway to astral projection, not through force or mysticism, but through the same mental mechanics that shape dreams, memories, and identity itself. Picture yourself lying still in the dim quiet of night, body heavy, breath slow, the world reduced to the faint hum of distance, and instead of trying to leave your body, you allow your imagination to wake up while everything else falls asleep. This is the first misunderstanding most people face. They attempt to imagine something vividly while fully awake, straining the mind, tightening the body, unknowingly anchoring themselves deeper into physical awareness. True imaginative projection works in reverse. It begins when imagination is allowed to drift without effort, when thoughts lose their sharp edges and images arise on their own, half-formed, unstable, flickering like reflections on water. Psychology tells us that the brain does not clearly distinguish between imagined perception and real perception when emotional engagement is high and sensory detail is present, and this is why dreams feel real while they last. Astral projection exploits this same mechanism, but with awareness intact. As the body enters sleep paralysis naturally, imagination becomes the only remaining bridge between conscious thought and the subconscious engine that generates alternate realities every night. When you imagine movement without moving, floating upward, rolling sideways, sinking through the bed, you are not pretending, you are rehearsing neural pathways that already exist, pathways used every time you dream of flying or falling. The key difference is that now, you are watching it happen. At first, the imagination feels weak, like shadows on the inside of your eyelids, but this weakness is exactly what makes it effective. Strong, forced visualization keeps the analytical mind active, but soft, passive imagery allows the subconscious to take control, and that is where projection begins. You may imagine reaching out with invisible hands, not to grab anything, but to feel space itself, noticing how sensation arises even though the physical body remains still. The brain responds to this imagined motion with subtle signals, vibrations, swaying, spinning, not because something supernatural is occurring, but because the motor cortex is activating without physical execution, a phenomenon well documented in neuroscience. As these sensations intensify, fear often appears, sharp and instinctive, because the mind interprets loss of bodily control as danger. This is where imagination becomes either a trap or a gateway. If you imagine fear, resistance, or snapping back to the body, the experience collapses instantly. If instead you imagine curiosity, calm, and continuation, the state stabilizes. Real-world consequences exist here. Panic strengthens the physical return reflex, while surrender deepens dissociation. This is not escapism, it is mental training. Over time, the imagination learns that it is safe to explore without triggering survival alarms. Stories from experienced projectors often describe a moment when imagination stops responding to conscious direction and begins unfolding on its own, environments forming without effort, movement occurring without intent. This is the threshold. At that point, imagination is no longer something you do, it is something you enter. The body feels distant, irrelevant, like a memory rather than a location, and awareness shifts fully into the imagined space, which now behaves with internal consistency and depth. Skeptics may argue this is lucid dreaming, and from a psychological standpoint, the boundary is thin, but the distinction lies in entry. Lucid dreams begin unconsciously and become conscious later. Astral projection begins consciously and descends into the dream-generating state without losing awareness. The imagination is the descent vehicle. It teaches the mind how to let go without blacking out. Importantly, imagination does not create random fantasy here. It follows expectation, belief, and emotional conditioning. If you imagine doors, you encounter doors. If you imagine darkness, darkness responds. This is why discipline matters. The imagination must be trained gently, repeatedly, without obsession. People who chase results aggressively often experience vivid hallucinations but lack stability, waking abruptly, confused or exhausted. Those who approach imagination as observation rather than control find continuity. There are consequences beyond the experience itself: heightened self-awareness, increased sensitivity to thought patterns, and a deeper understanding of how easily perception can shift. The mind learns that reality is not as fixed as it appears, and this realization can be grounding or unsettling depending on one's psychological balance. That is why imagination must be used responsibly, anchored in curiosity rather than escapism, exploration rather than avoidance of life. When practiced with intention, imagination becomes a mirror that reveals how consciousness navigates worlds both internal and external. Astral projection, through this lens, is not an escape from reality but a confrontation with the mechanisms that build it. Each session becomes a dialogue between awareness and the subconscious, teaching patience, emotional regulation, and surrender. In the end, imagination is not the illusion, it is the interface. It is the language consciousness uses when the physical world goes quiet, and when you learn to listen without forcing, without fear, without expectation. That language carries you beyond the body not as an act of fantasy, but as a direct, experiential shift into the architecture of awareness itself.